Welcome to the world of Jho Low, a man who has become infamous for his alleged role in one of the biggest financial scandals in history. Imagine having the power to steal billions of dollars from an entire country, leaving citizens in poverty and financial ruin. That's exactly what Jho Low did. He orchestrated a scheme that robbed the people of Malaysia of billions of dollars and lived a life of luxury and opulence. He had access to private jets, yachts, and even Picasso's artworks. His story is one of greed, power, and deception, but how did he pull off such a massive scam, and what happened to the stolen money? Jho Low, also known as Low Take Jho, was born in Penang, Malaysia in 1981. He came from a wealthy family. His father, Low Hock Peng, was a successful businessman. Jho Low was sent to the prestigious and elite boarding school of Harrow in England in 1998. Little did anyone know, this seemingly innocent move would set the stage for a story of cunning, deception, and ultimately one of the greatest financial heists in history. As Jho Low mingled with his classmates, many of whom were the children of royalty and billionaires, he saw an opportunity to climb the social ladder and gain access to a world of power and prestige. He went to great lengths to impress them, from borrowing a lavish yacht and pretending it was his own, to even posing as a member of a foreign royal family to gain entry into exclusive nightclubs. But Jho Low's ambition didn't stop there. Upon arriving at Wharton University in America, he continued to craft a persona of wealth and influence, plagiarizing articles on stocks and claiming to own luxury cars, all while allowing rumors of being a prince to spread unchecked. But his ultimate goal was always to gain the trust and connections of the most powerful and wealthy individuals in his circles, and he would stop at nothing to make it happen. He meticulously studied the most wealthy and influential students at his university and set out to befriend them, using the same tactics he had employed at his prestigious boarding school. To further solidify his image of success and wealth, Jho Low threw a lavish, exclusive party for his birthday, renting out a high-end nightclub and inviting only the elite. But the party was just a facade, a calculated move to further bolster his image and gain the trust of wealthy attendees. In reality, Jho Low had only put down a deposit for the party and was stalling on paying the club owners, using his charm and connections to negotiate a massive discount. But Jho Low's desire didn't stop there. He set his sights on the Middle East, using his newfound connections to tour the region and meet with some of the wealthiest families and even minor royals. He became particularly interested in the power structures and control of money in the Middle East. One of the most significant connections Jho Low made was with the individuals who controlled Abu Dhabi's sovereign wealth funds, a massive pool of money controlled by the government and mostly unregulated. After his networking tour of the Middle East, Jho Low returned to the university to graduate and set up his own company, the Winton Group. He claimed that he chose the name because he would win tons of money, and the company's purpose was to broker deals between Middle Eastern investors and projects in Malaysia. Jho Low had always been a master of networking and leveraging his connections for personal gain. One of his closest friends from his days at boarding school was Riza Aziz, the stepson of a powerful Malaysian government official named Najib Razak. As fate would have it, Najib eventually rose through the ranks to become Deputy Prime Minister of Malaysia, granting Jho Low a valuable inroad to the upper echelons of power. Eager to prove his worth and capitalize on this opportunity, Jho Low heard of a massive construction project in the works that Malaysia was seeking partners for. The project aimed to build a financial and lifestyle center similar to Singapore, and Jho Low saw it as the perfect chance to use his connections in the Middle East to broker a deal and secure investment. He made sure to let Najib take all the credit for the deal, even though Jho Low had done all the work. This shrewd move earned him immense popularity with the Malaysian people and helped Najib become the Prime Minister of Malaysia in 2009. In 2009, when Najib became Prime Minister, Jho Low saw a chance to gain even more power and influence by suggesting the creation of a sovereign wealth fund and positioning himself as the head of the newly created 1MDB fund. With little oversight, Jho Low used the fund's money for personal gain, including transferring $700 million to a shell company he owned. Though the scheme was eventually uncovered, Jho Low's meticulous planning and manipulation of power individuals had allowed him to control and profit from Malaysia's billion-dollar fund. Jho Low had found a way to exploit the system, taking money from a Malaysian fund and funneling it to Swiss bank accounts, all while using his connections in high-ranking positions to keep himself out of trouble. With hundreds of millions of dollars at his disposal, Jho Low began living an extravagant lifestyle, buying yachts, mansions, and sports cars, and even purchasing a hotel in Beverly Hills. Jho Low was known for throwing lavish parties with celebrities such as Paris Hilton, Leonardo DiCaprio, and others. He would even go as far as to pay celebrities to attend his parties and would give out expensive gifts such as a Ferrari to Kim Kardashian. Jho Low's ultimate goal was to build a media empire using the money he had taken to establish a legitimate and profitable business. But as his compulsion to spend and acquire more grew, he found himself needing more money fast, leading him to continue stealing. He was often referred to as the Asian Great Gatsby, not just for his parties, but also for his tendency to observe rather than participate in them. Despite his reputation and fame, Jho Low's past and true identity remained a mystery. Some even speculated that he was an arms dealer or descendant from royalty. His closest friends even nicknamed him Panda due to his plump and cuddly appearance. Jho Low had successfully embezzled money from the Malaysian fund 1MDB and used it to finance his extravagant lifestyle and a political slush fund for the Prime Minister. However, he had bigger plans in mind. Jho Low, with a love for the LA lifestyle, decided to invest in Hollywood and helped fund a production company, Red Granite Pictures, keeping himself anonymous and operating behind the scenes. Jho Low then came across the opportunity to finance the film adaptation of The Wolf of Wall Street for DiCaprio and Scorsese, who was struggling to find funding from major studios. He invested in the movie and it was a huge success, putting Jho Low's name on the map. Although the real-life inspiration for the movie, Jordan Belfort, had doubts about Jho Low's source of wealth. Jho Low was determined to build a legitimate media empire, but his compulsion to spend and acquire more led him to make plans to steal more money. He had set his sights on convincing the head of Goldman Sachs Asia division, Tim Leissner, to aid in his quest to raise money through bond sales for his company, 1MDB. He spared no expense, whisking Leissner away on a private jet to meet with one of the wealthiest sheiks in the world. Jho Low knew that the credibility of a reputable Wall Street bank like Goldman Sachs was crucial to make the bond deals appear legitimate. A deal was struck, with Goldman Sachs issuing and selling the bonds to investors who were led to believe their money would be used to finance power plants. However, 1MDB had no credit rating, making it a hard sell to investors. Jho Low, ever the master of manipulation, paired 1MDB with Abu Dhabi's Sovereign Wealth Fund, which had a solid credit rating and $70 billion in assets, making the bond package much more attractive to investors. In 2012, 1MDB issued $3.5 billion in bonds through Goldman Sachs, but Jho Low, acting as the official fund manager, used his offshore tricks to divert $1.4 billion of that money to a company registered in the British Virgin Islands, another tax heaven. Jho Low, a masterful mastermind, employed a technique known as layering to hide the true origin of funds stolen. He transferred money from one offshore bank account to another, making them appear as legitimate transactions or loans, and added layers of complexity until the source of the funds was untraceable. Jho Low also utilized trust accounts at US law firms, which are hardly regulated due to client confidentiality rules. However, his biggest advantage was exploiting the lack of scrutiny on transactions between governments, as government funds are not transparent as those of regular companies. This allowed Jho Low to steal an estimated $4.5 billion from 1MDB, treating the fund meant to aid Malaysia as his personal bank account. Despite the knowledge of Malaysia's Prime Minister Najib that 1MDB was not entirely above board, as he too was receiving secret funds for his political ambitions, Jho Low's promises of enhancing relationships with the Middle East and bringing investments and developments to Malaysia blinded Najib to the potential consequences of giving Jho Low unrestricted control over such a vast sum of money. As questions about the 1MDB funds and the missing money arose, it became clear that Jho Low's actions would not go unnoticed. Jho Low had it all: Prime Minister Najib on his side, stolen money to fund political campaigns, and even a famous girlfriend. But little did he know, his actions would soon catch up with him. In 2015, a whistleblower leaked emails that revealed Jho Low's schemes, leading to protests and calls for the Prime Minister's resignation. Jho Low realized he needed to go into hiding, but with the vast amounts of cash, he could still live comfortably. However, his high life was short-lived as the Prime Minister was voted out and subsequently arrested for corruption. As for Jho Low, he disappeared and is rumored to be living in China, unable to travel to many countries and living a low-key lifestyle. The true victims in all of this were the Malaysian people, left with debt and betrayed by their government's actions. Billion dollars of government money in Malaysia vanished into a labyrinth of offshore bank accounts and shell companies. Even today, the FBI is still struggling to piece together the extent of the scam. Everyone involved, from Jho Low to Najib and Goldman Sachs, denies any wrongdoing. But it's clear that this scam is a prime example of how the financial system can be easily manipulated by powerful people and banks who prioritize profits over ethics. Shockingly, Jho Low is still a free man, but he can no longer visit many countries and must stay low. Reports suggest that towards the end of his scamming, Jho Low became anxious and paranoid, despite living a lavish lifestyle with movie stars and models on yachts. He was never truly happy, constantly desperate for validation and respect. This ultimately led to his downfall, even though he may not be the craziest billionaire out there.